I'm posting here for the first time because I'm still trying to wrap my head around what happened to me last week. I'm not one for believing in ghosts, demons, or any of that paranormal stuff. Never have been. But this experience has gotten under my skin in a way I can't shake. I wake up every night, heart pounding, feeling like something's watching me or calling me back. If anyone has any ideas about what this was or what I should do next, please, I'm begging you, let me know. This is going to be a long one, but I feel like you need the full picture to understand why I'm so freaked out. Background. My name's Jake Wright, and I live in Mapleton, a small town in Ohio where time feels like it stopped somewhere around 1985. The streets are quiet, the storefronts are faded, and everybody knows everybody's business, or at least they think they do. I work at Mapleton Hardware and Feed, a local store where I spend my days hauling lumber, restocking paint cans, and helping farmers pick out the right feed for their livestock. It's a simple life. Wake up, go to work, grab a beer at the local dive bar, and hang out with my best friend Emily Jones. Emily's an artist, always working on some weird project, like making sculptures out of rusted farm equipment, or taking photos of abandoned barns in the fields around Mapleton. She's one of the few people in town who dreams of something bigger than this place, always talking about moving to a city like Chicago or Seattle. We grew up together, and even though she calls me boring for liking my routine, we're tight. Last Friday night, Emily went to a concert in Cleveland to see some indie band called the Midnight Howlers. She's obsessed with their music. Around 10:45 p.m., my phone buzzed with her name on the screen. "Jake, please come get me," she said, her voice shaky. "Michael got sick out of nowhere and bailed on me. I'm stuck here alone, and this place, it feels off." Michael's a friend of hers from Cleveland who was supposed to give her a ride back. I was exhausted from a long day of heavy lifting at the store, but Emily's like family. I'd do anything for her. So I climbed into my beat-up 2005 Ford F-150, threw on my favorite playlist, Springsteen's Born to Run, Tom Petty's Free Fallin', some classic rock to keep me awake, and headed out on Route 17 road that cuts through the fields and oak groves outside Mapleton, eventually connecting to Interstate 71. It's a narrow, winding stretch. Parts of it still unpaved, and it's almost always empty at night. Locals avoid it, preferring the newer highway, but it's the fastest way to Cleveland if you don't want to deal with traffic. It was past 11 p.m., and my truck's headlights were the only thing cutting through the pitch-black darkness. The moon cast a faint glow, making the shadows of the trees twist into weird shapes, and every now and then, I'd hear the hoot of an owl or the rustle of something moving in the underbrush. About halfway to Cleveland, my truck's fuel gauge started flashing a warning. I was stunned. I'd filled the tank that morning, and it should have been at least half full. But the needle was dropping fast, like the gas was leaking out or evaporating. I figured the gauge might be busted. My truck's old, and it's had quirks before. But I couldn't risk getting stranded in the middle of nowhere, so I knew I had to stop. There's only one place on Route 17 to get gas. Old Man Greg's gas station. That gas station is practically a local legend in Mapleton. People say it's been there since the 70s or 80s, but no one's ever met a Greg who runs it. The sign out front reads, "Greg's Gas and Goods," but it's rusted and half broken, with flickering neon lights that buzz like dying insects at night. When I was a kid, we'd dare each other to drive by it after dark, swapping stories about how it was haunted, how people who stopped there at night never came back, or how Greg would trap you in his store forever. I always laughed those stories off, but driving past it alone at night, the place always gave me the creeps. It's like it doesn't belong in the present, like it's stuck in some forgotten pocket of time. I didn't have a choice, so I pulled into the gravel lot. The pumps were ancient, covered in rust, with a faded sign that said, "Pay inside first." I tried using my credit card at the pump, but the screen just flashed. "Come inside." The words flickered in a way that made my stomach churn, like the machine was talking to me. I chalked it up to the pump being outdated. Everything about this place looked like it hadn't been touched in decades. So I took a deep breath and walked into the store. Inside the gas station, the inside of the store felt like stepping into a time capsule from a bad horror movie. The shelves were lined with dusty, outdated products, bags of Doritos and Lay's with logos from the 90s, cans of Pepsi and Mountain Dew with old-school designs, and candy bars like Snickers and Milky Way covered in a thick layer of dust. The air smelled musty, like mold and something faintly rotten, as if the place hadn't been aired out in years. In the background, an old, rusted radio played nothing but static, punctuated by faint, echoing whispers that I couldn't quite make out. The fluorescent lights overhead flickered, casting long, jittery shadows, and the glass windows gave off a strange, pale blue glow that seemed to pulse against the darkness outside. Behind the counter stood an old man with a name tag that read Greg. His face was gaunt, almost skeletal, with thinning white hair that hung limply over his forehead. His eyes were empty, like there was nothing behind them, no spark of life. He wore a faded checkered shirt, and his hands looked unnaturally thin and cold. His smile was forced, too wide, like it didn't belong on his face. "Need the pump turned on?" he asked. His voice had an eerie echo, like it was coming from the bottom of a well. "Yeah, thanks," I said, handing him my credit card. He took it but didn't swipe it. He just stared at it, turning it over in his hands like it was some alien artifact. Then out of nowhere he said, "You've been here before, haven't you, Jake?" I froze. I hadn't told him my name, and my card only had J. Wright on it. "No, this is my first time here," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. He smiled wider, and it made my skin crawl. "That's what they all say, Jake. But we remember. You belong to us." My heart started pounding. I thought maybe he was messing with me, or maybe he'd heard my name around Mapleton. Small towns talk, right? But something about his voice felt wrong, like it wasn't entirely human. I muttered, "Just turn on the pump, please." He pressed a rusty button on the counter, and I hurried back outside to fill my tank. When I grabbed the pump, the air turned cold and heavy, like a storm was about to hit. My skin prickled, and I felt an overwhelming sense that something was watching me. I glanced back at the store, and there was Greg standing at the window staring at me. His smile was even creepier now, and his eyes weren't empty anymore. They glowed with a strange, unnatural blue light, like the glow I'd seen in the windows. I pumped the gas as fast as I could. My tank wasn't even half full, but I didn't care. I just needed to get out of there. I jumped back in my truck and peeled out of the lot, the endless road. But when I got back on Route 17, everything felt wrong. The road signs were gone, and instead of trees and fields, there was just a thick black fog that seemed to swallow the edges of the road. My truck's headlights barely cut through it, and the road felt narrower, almost suffocating. My phone had no signal, and when I tried calling Emily, all I got was static. Then out of the static, I heard Greg's voice, clear as day. "You'll come back, Jake?" They all come back. My heart was racing now. I floored the gas, but the road seemed to stretch on forever, like I was stuck in a loop. Every turn led to the same foggy, desolate stretch. My truck's radio turned on by itself, blaring static, and through it, I heard Greg's voice again. "You're ours, Jake. You'll always be ours." My hands were slick with cold sweat, and I kept feeling like something was moving in the back seat. I glanced in the rearview mirror, but there was nothing. Just darkness and fog. After what felt like an eternity, maybe half an hour, the road suddenly cleared. I hit Interstate 71, and my phone signal came back. I picked up Emily, and on the drive back to Mapleton, I told her everything. She thought I was joking or just overtired. "Jake, you need to sleep," she said, popping in her earbuds and zoning out to her music. But I knew it wasn't my imagination, the aftermath and lingering dread. When we got back to Mapleton, I checked my wallet and my credit card was gone. In its place was a crumpled, yellowed piece of paper with handwriting that looked like it was scratched out by a trembling hand. "Come back to Route 17, Jake. We miss you." I showed it to Emily, and her face went pale. "Jake, where did this come from?" she asked. I didn't have an answer. The next day, I drove back to Route 17 to find the gas station, but where it should have been, there was nothing. Just an empty field with overgrown grass. My truck's tire tracks were still there in the dirt, proving I'd been there the night before, but the station, the pumps, the sign, everything was gone. I went to the Mapleton Library and dug through old newspapers. I found an article from 1983 about a fire at a gas station on Route 17. The owner, a man named Greg Hammond, had supposedly died in the blaze, but his body was never found. Locals said Greg used to stay at the station alone at night, and some claimed they saw strange blue lights glowing inside before the fire. The article also mentioned that Greg had a habit of saying, "They all come back," to his customers, like he knew something they didn't. It's been a week, and I'm still shaken. My truck's fuel gauge keeps dropping inexplicably, even when I fill it up daily. Every night, when I try to sleep, I hear Greg's voice whispering, "You'll come back." Last night, I saw that same eerie blue glow outside my bedroom window, the same glow I saw at the gas station. I told Emily, and she suggested I talk to a priest or a paranormal investigator. But I don't even know how to explain this without sounding insane. And then there's the worst part. This morning, I found an old, rusted gas can on the back seat of my truck. It wasn't there when I dropped Emily off. It had a faded label that read, "Greg's Gas and Goods," and inside was a strange, glowing blue liquid that seemed to pulse faintly. I locked it in my garage, but I can still hear it. Humming, almost like it's alive. I don't know what's happening. Is this all in my head? Is there something wrong with Route 17? Or is Greg, or whatever he is, really calling me back? If anyone's heard of anything like this or has any advice, please tell me. I don't want to go back. But I'm starting to feel like I don't have a choice.